17 years. What does one learn in 17 years of helping founders scale? So, as mentioned, we fund founders like you. We advise founders like you. We run growth programs for founders like you. We are founders like you. And you pick up quite a lot in 17 years. We do it for a very specific reason. The reason is because we have more kids hungry than fed. And there's a very powerful way to change that, which is to move households from 0 to 1 stable income. So that's why we do what we do, and that's why your success matters to us. So I care a lot about what we do. I love the company we run, but I care about other things too. I like writing because I believe in the power of living words. I love writing on the physics of life, business, my faith. I have about 50 books inside of me, and I have got none on the shelf. And the reason I think I have none on the shelf is because I am a founder. And so I get up most days and I spend my life in the whirlwind, running from fire to problem to client to cash crisis to payroll to the next urgent thing. And over the last 17 years, we have inched our way forward one bloody inch at a time. And that's why I have 50 books not on the shelf. So how to tame the whirlwind, get our lives back, run a company we love. That's what I want to talk about today. And the good news is I will have one book on the shelf next year because of the things that we have learned over 17 years that we're doing and that are working, and which will get me to 3-day weeks and publishing books next year. 3 things that founders who have companies they love do well. And so I'm going to tell you about these things, firstly through a story. I'll come back to that little badge and its role in the story. None of the people in this photo made the next month alive. That is a British exploration team at the South Pole in 2012. 1 year before this, the South Pole was the final frontier for adventurers chasing the remotest, most difficult to reach spots on planet Earth. And a year after that, 2 teams, one British, one Norwegian, set out to trek 1,500 kilometers through some of the most unforbidding terrain on planet Earth, and more or less at the same time. That looks like a celebration photo for the British team. But that's the Norwegian flag they found there when they arrived, about 5 weeks after the Norwegian team got there. The British team was led by Sir Robert Falcon Scott, a meticulous planner with the dream of being the first to the South Pole. He was also a scientist, and he had the ambition of undertaking some cutting-edge science while on the way to the South Pole. And so his team set out with that equipment and, therefore, ponies with the brute strength to carry it all and the extra people that were needed. And that is the British team. Around about the same time, a gentleman called Roald Amundsen set off with his team, Norwegian team. This team knew how to travel in cold conditions. They were expert skiers. They knew how to work with dogs. And so they set off, the 2 teams, at about the same time. This, again, is a photo of the British team when they arrived, unfortunately, 5 weeks after. The Norwegian team had arrived and left and were almost back at their ship by this time. Very depressed, disappointed British team took this photo and set off on what would be a grueling trip that none of them would survive back. So, what do we learn from this story? 3 things that the one team got right and the other team did not, leading to each one of them perishing on the way back. And those are strategy, team, and system. 3 very simple words, 3 tricky things to get right. So let's talk through them one at a time. Let's, in a way, break down what one team got right and the other got wrong. So Sir Robert Falcon Scott was an ambitious man, which is why he doubled up a high-stakes expedition with also doing cutting-edge scientific research along the way, which needed extra equipment and also extra people, which needed ponies, which were ill-fit for the journey, which meant they were slow, which killed them. Because a freezing cold winter set in a little bit early, and they were just unable to make it back in time. By comparison, their Norwegian counterparts were singularly focused on one goal. They were going to make it to the South Pole, and they did. So the double-headed mission was at least partly responsible for picking the wrong team, because instead of dogs, they picked ponies with more strength. Instead of purely a set of expert skiers, they picked also a couple of scientists, and that is why they had a mixed bag of a team, and that is why they were slow, and that turned out to be life and death. By comparison, Amundsen picked only expert skiers who knew how to work with dog teams, and they were fast, and that saved them. Thirdly, system, particularly operating system, by which I mean the habits of the team and how they work together. Scott and his team had a philosophy that turned out to, makes a lot of sense, didn't work out that well for them. They hunkered down in bad weather, and they made up for it when the weather was good, which meant they did brutal sprints, which they struggled to recover from and slowly fatigued. By comparison, Amundsen's team did something interesting. They did a 20-mile march every day in good weather and bad. Every single day they did the 20-mile march, and that meant they kept up a steady pace and they never overexerted themselves, so they were able to stay in good condition and keep their pace up. Strategy, team, and operating system. The three keys to a high-stakes expedition. And your business is a high-stakes expedition. And you need strategy, team, and system. Your life as a founder will be pain, loss, suffering, misery, frustration, until you have a great strategy, team, and system. And I can tell you that because I have lived through that hell for years on end. I've had Scott years and I've had Amundsen years. There were about 5 years of Scott's team's experience, hell on earth, every day, a frenetic sprint, 16, 18 hours, like feeling guilty going to bed, weekends an hour or two of rest here and there, holidays never came, they were catch up on email, and every inch won was won with blood. I had years and years of that, and we had 2 of these ingredients down. We had a great strategy and we had a great team. But we didn't have a great operating system. And there was a day it shifted. We're living in a little bit Amundsen years right now, and I'm grateful. But there was a day it shifted. It was about 10 years ago. We got together in a boardroom at the Peach Hotel, and we asked, what the hell are we doing? And how are we going to fix it? And we agreed that we were going to turn this thing around, and we were going to build an asset of value. And the way we were going to do that is we were going to instill a culture of performance accountability across the company, starting with us. And we put a valuation on the table. And I can tell you 10 years later, we're at 5 times that valuation and headed upwards. And it all started with one word. The day we decided to hold ourselves accountable and build a culture of accountability through the business. Now, there's more to it than that. I'm going to unpack 4 extra insights on what we've learned and how that's worked for us. And so the first principle is, this one word accountability is actually 4 words. What we've learned over time is, accountability to stupid goals is still just stupid. You need more than that. You need a team that is focused, aligned, committed, and accountable. And when you have a team that is continuously focused, aligned, committed, and accountable, you have a team that executes. And when you have a team that executes, you tame the whirlwind, you build the company you love. And so that's what you want to build. You want to build a team that is always focused, aligned, committed, and accountable. The second thing we've learned is, just like my bedroom and my kitchen and my car fall into chaos and disorder, until somebody intervenes. It's normally not me. Just like that, your team will descend into chaos. And the half-life on focus, alignment, commitment, accountability is about a week. You need to put in the work to keep your team focused, aligned, committed, and accountable. And the leadership habits that do that is what your operating system is. That's the job of the operating system. Keep your team focused, aligned, committed, accountable through a set of leadership habits that maintain that state. The third lesson is start with the operating system. If you are wondering, whether you have got either a strategy or a team or operating system, well, just start with the system. Because in order to fix your strategy or fix your team, you need to be able to execute. And to execute, you need a team that's focused, aligned, committed, and accountable. So start there. Start with the operating system, and from there you'll get better at strategy and execution. And the last one is, despite these habits being extraordinarily simple, they're easy to learn and they're easy to do, they are bloody hard to adopt as a team. Because we don't like adopting new habits, especially busy leaders of small businesses with families at home. And so you will have to go to war to establish these habits in your company to underpin your culture. They're not complicated, they're not difficult, they're just hard to adopt. It's the human part that's the problem. And so focus there. In fact, we're so convinced that this is the number one thing and that it is the number one difficulty that is the company we're building next. The company we're building next is a software platform to help you with those habits, because those habits are so easy to do and so hard to adopt. So that's coming in January. It's a platform called Next9, and if it sounds like you need any of this, shoot me an email and we'll send you more information. There's my email address. So, strategy, system, and team. It's what you need in order to have a company that tames the whirlwind and becomes a company you love running and helps you get what you want out of your business. But start with the operating system, because that is where you will build the platform for your leadership to help your team function and feel like a winning team. That's me.